What's going on, Neverthought? You good? Thank you. That's all I came for. Yeah, so we have got an hour, right, together. Well, I'm on this stage, you guys sitting there on the seats getting numb bums, right? But it's okay, because we're gonna have some fun. Now the point is, I thought, they asked me, can you share about some of the stuff people can learn if they come to Chatsworth? And I was like, yeah, I can talk about anything. I can science of shoelace. I can science of Star Wars. Science of Harry Potter. I've written books about it, you can go check them out, right? But today, I'm talking about the science of Chatsworth. Now you might be thinking like, Chatsworth, I like that place, but science, I'm not really sure. Let me get a vote. Who here likes science? You got a few. Who here likes geography? Some of you, right. Who here likes engineering? Me. Okay. Who here likes raps? Yeah, I don't mean like chicken wraps or like chicken salad wraps. I mean raps, like hip hop, raps, music, rap music. Okay. So, we got a little something for all of you, right? But we're gonna start like this. This is a place that most of you have been to. Hands up if you went to this place. Okay, fantastic. Keep your hands up if you thought it was really cool, if you liked it and you've never been there before. Excellent. Right, so we are going to be talking about the Cascade and this whole site, but looking at how you can learn about your curriculum and stuff you learn at school through this. And this show is called Chatsworth Got Flow. Oh yeah! Now, as a rapper, I know about flow, right? I got a nice flow if I do say so myself. I want to check out you guys' flow as well during this show. My name is Jon Chase, and we are ready to go. So, in this show, there are 3 types of flow. Well, there are 4 if you include the rap flow. But we're going to be looking at the flow of water, we're going to be looking at the flow of ideas, and we're going to be looking at the flow of energy. All right? Now, to start off, we're going to start with a rap flow. When you see these raps come in, I need your help. When we get to that last word, I need you to shout out those words. You think you can help me with that? Yeah. Okay, right. So I'll show you how the first two lines go. It's like this. The Cascade got a whole lot of flow. Yo, we're getting down with the H2O. This is going to be awesome. Let's go. Oh, I'm good at this. The Cascade got a whole lot of flow. Yo, we're getting down with the H2O. From the moors to the artery, then to the down to the Derbyshire, where it ends. Chatsworth got a whole lot of flow. Yo, we're getting down with the H2O. From the flow of ideas or energy, there's a fountain of fascinating things to know. Yeah. Neverthought got flow. I like that. To the raps a bit later. So let's get into it. The first flow of Chatsworth. Water flows. Now you may have seen this building at the top of the Cascade, but the Cascade is just one part of a thing called the water artery. Now, for it to work, you need to understand the underlying principles of how water flows. Can you hear me when I talk like this? Yeah. Yeah, because this is the screen. But I use that for the raps. When it's not that, I'll talk to you like this. So what we have is the hydrologic cycle. Yeah. You can just call it the water cycle, right? Same thing, right? Nice and easy. Now, there's a lot of arrows. It seems a bit confusing. But generally, we all know that it's a cycle. The water goes that way and comes back down. It kind of goes round and round and round. So let's kind of simplify this a little bit, okay? Let's get rid of all that stuff and just look at this part. This part is water goes up. How does it do that? Does anyone know the name of it? Oh, yeah, at the back. Condensation. No condensation? Yeah? Hey. No one needs to laugh because it's okay to get things wrong because then you find out the answer and you always remember it, okay? All right, okay. Evaporation, right? So, we've got all different types of evaporation. You can see it's coming up from surface waters there, coming up from the ocean, from the rivers, even from the trees. Basically, anywhere there's water that gets up to a sufficient temperature, it could turn into a vapor and rise up. And then when it gets up high enough and cools down, we get what my guy at the back said. Shout it out. Condensation, right. Now, once you've got the condensation, the wind blows this condensed air, aka clouds, over the land, okay? But let's look at that a bit closer. So we've got this air, this vapor, and as it gets blown over the land, it's held in the air, but then it can get pushed up over high ground. When it pushes up higher, it gets cooler. And when it gets cooler, it can't hold as much of the water. The water then condenses, and eventually it rains, okay? It goes up and then eventually it rains. Now if you look on this side, it's nice and grassy, okay? But on this side, there's a rain shadow because it drops most of its water off this side, and on that side, you kind of got like an empty cloud, like a sponge who's wrung all of its water out this side, then it's a bit drier. There's still water, but it's a bit drier on that side. Why is this important? Because it helps you understand the weather and climate in your area. Here is a map of the UK, and you can see where the high and low parts are. The high parts are in red, the lower parts are green and yellow, okay? Now, this says that when you get a high part and the air goes up, it cools down and it rains a lot. So what we should expect is, where there's high parts of ground, the air should be rising and you should get more water. That sound reasonable? That's geography here. Let's check it out. Well, here's a map of the rainfall over the UK. So those are the highlands, here's the rainfall. Same, isn't it? Can you see it? There's the places where it rains the most, these are the places where it rains the least. Look, the highlands and where it rains a lot. So there's a direct relationship. So when people often go, why does this matter to me? Well, this is where you are right now. Now, depending on where you live in the UK, it can be slightly drier or slightly wetter. So some parts of the UK, it will always be raining and wet a lot of the time. Other parts, it might be a bit more sunny. So if you want to go on a holiday, maybe, and you're not leaving the country, maybe going around these areas, you'll get a bigger chance of a dry day than on this side, okay? But let's look at this further. Here's the Chatsworth landscape. How does that water affect Chatsworth? Now, here's the building and all the land and the hill going up behind it, and the River Derwent going below it. So the Derwent goes down the bottom here, and you've got all of this land, and all of this area is where rain will drop. And each particular area is called a catchment, okay? Because it catches the water, and all of that water from a particular catchment all funnels down to a particular place, and eventually ends up in a river and heads towards the sea or the ocean. Now, if you look at Chatsworth, how does Chatsworth deal with the water it gets? Well, let's check it out. We have these things called south or westerlies winds. That means the wind generally goes from the south and west over the lands, which is why the west side of the country gets more of the water. Kind of this way at Chatsworth. Now, if we look at what happens after the clouds go over the lands, we can see that when it drops as precipitation, it's got to find its way back down. Now, here's the thing that I used to think as a kid, and I used to think this was true, and then only recently, after I looked back, I was like, oh yeah, of course. The water doesn't just run down the top of the surface, as surface runoff. It doesn't just run down the top and go into the rivers, it runs underneath the ground as well and through the ground as subsurface water. And this water down here, you can mark it off as what's called the water table, how far you dig down to find water and how high it is. And the water seeps into the rivers from underneath as well. It also infiltrates through the ground, and it even goes at these lower levels where more softer grounds that can take water in hits grounds that can't take water in as much. And it just kind of runs along the top underneath. But this is how the water makes its way down back to the ocean, okay? Why is this important at Chatsworth? Because we can replace this map with a map of Chatsworth. But what you have basically is this. There's the top of the hill with lots of lakes. Here's the bottom with the River Derwent, and here we've got the Cascade, and you can see it's a hill. So the water's going to go up and then find its way down to the bottom. Now, there's this thing called the water artery. Have any of you heard of that at Chatsworth? No. Yeah. Okay, so you've got arteries in your veins, haven't you? Yeah. There's different ways that blood can get around your body from your heart and then back to your heart, okay? Yeah. It's the same thing as this artery. At the top, you've got where the water drops, the catchment area. Here is the Beasley Moors and the East Moors. The water falls into this catchment, and through the ground and underneath the ground, it travels back downhill. You get places where it puddles and pools, but this is nature's way of working. The clouds bring the water, it makes its way back down the hill. Next up, because of that, this guy called Joseph Paxton thought, we need to find a way to get this nicely into these lakes. These lakes were man-made. So he made streams to help the water flow through the ground. Remember, it seeps in from underneath as well, and then it helps it travel downhill, because that's the way it goes, into this thing called the Emperor Lake, which stores a bunch of water. And then he also made this. So it wasn't there before, he made it, dug it out, holds a whole heap of water. Next up, you can see what happens when it dries out. Pretty rubbish, okay? And you gotta realize when we talk about this later, what this lake is for. Okay, so you take this water from the lake, and then it travels down this pipe, not a river, but a pipe that's man-made again, all the way to the Emperor Fountain. Okay, so that Emperor Lake is where this water comes from, all the way from the top of the hill. And the reason it gets to the top of the hill is the water cycle. And we've just made a quick way to get it back down, okay? But that isn't the only thing that happens. After it's come from the Emperor Fountain, they put it through a turbine and a generator to generate electricity. And then finally, it goes down to the Derwent, where it ends. But that isn't the only path. Like I said with the veins in your body and the arteries, there's different routes it can take. And there's other feeders. For example, there's the Cascade. It can be fed by the Emperor pipe, but they've got another pond up here. This pond, the upper ring pond, holds water that flows over the Sota Stone and then along and over this man-made aqueduct. Then it flows into this thing called a Cascade Pond. Then from here, it flows through a channel down into the Cascade. So the water's flowing all the way from up there, channeling across to here. Now all of these are fed by water coming downhill from gravity, okay? It keeps going downhill, then it actually goes into the house. Yeah. Now, I asked, do they use this to bath with? No. I don't think they bath with this these days. But it is in the toilets, right? So if you flush the toilets, the water apparently is the water that's coming down from there, okay? They also use it for the fire hydrants, they use it to water the garden, they use it for the fountains, okay? But after that water's finished, it heads down to the Derwent. So you can see how humans have found a way to use geography to live alongside nature and to help us do stuff, all right? So this is the water artery. Now, to summarize that mainly geography part, we have a hydrological cycle, and it's a natural physical process, and it brings us water. We also have a landscape that affects where the rain falls. So depending on the amount of hills you've got around you, you have more or less rain. Human activity at Chatsworth relies on the effective functioning of the hydrologic cycle. So imagine if we didn't have the hydrologic cycle, Chatsworth couldn't do any of the things you've just seen, because the water would not be coming from the top of the hill. Finally, summary point is, understanding nature can provide us with clever solutions for achieving our everyday needs. Great summary, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. But honestly, that is not how I like to summarize things. Those are cool summary points. I'll just put that in there for your teachers. So you give like the curriculum, yeah, that's lovely. Summary point. Oh, yeah. 5 ticks for this guy, A star. Now for you guys. All right. So, you know how this goes. You just join in on the red words, okay? And I'm going to wrap this through. Are you with me? Yeah. No, I don't think you're with me. Are you with me? Yeah. There you go. Never thought. Let's do this. When the sun rays hit the everything. So water always heads for the lowest. this show goes. I introduce a topic, I talk about some stuff. You realize how some of this stuff is in my curriculum. Some of you will be like, I know this, actually this is easy. Some of you will be like, I remember this, I've forgotten that. Some of you will be like, the hydrogen what cycle? The what cycle? What's he talking about? But my point is, I talk about some stuff, then I give you a little summary of it, and then I do a rap that summarizes everything I just said. So are you with me still? Yeah! Next up, we have water flowing from the bottle into my mouth. Because I'm thirsty. This water is brought to you by the hydrologic cycle. Thank you. Right. So, ideas flow. Now, the flow of ideas is basically the idea that people have thoughts. We think about something we want or need, then we find a way to make that happen. Now, we see a lot of this at Chatsworth. Lots of ideas. Now, these ideas aren't necessarily new. You'd be surprised how far back some of these ideas go. So all these things are things you can find at Chatsworth. For example, this is the house at the top of Chatsworth. And you at the top of the hill with the Cascade. You can see there's a cascade, which is basically a waterfall. Now, artificial waterfalls have been around for thousands of years, okay? People have been making artificial ways of getting water from the top of a hill down the hill, okay? We've also got these things called arches, like an aqueduct, the way to carry water from one place to another. Aqueduct, again, are a few thousand years old, even perhaps going back 4,000 years. And what you notice here is it's got these arches. Arches are a really clever invention. They allow you to support quite a lot of weight and it distributes it down into the legs. And when they both build arches, they can start building different structures, okay? So it was a really great engineering thing. If you take an arch like this, and then you turn it 360 degrees, you get a dome, okay? Domes are another clever invention. Now, if you look up in this room, what can you see? The structure. Oh no, we haven't got a dome in here, but you do have a arch, just right. Look how it allows you to span a big distance. Arches are really great structures, but you can also span a big distance with a dome in places like St. Paul's Cathedral or this huge dome that they also have in Chatsworth and on the top of this part here. This is a conservatory. These are really cool because it allowed you to grow plants. Like people didn't always travel the whole world. EasyJet weren't always there, do you know what I mean? It took ages to go anywhere, right? If you went to the coast in your own country, you were lucky, all right? Depending where you lived. It's like a horse journey. But as technology got better and we started traveling further, we went to other countries and we'd bring back fruit and we'd think, how are we going to grow these fruit? These guys were like, why don't we make a house to house it to keep it nice and warm? Invention of the greenhouse, okay? So these greenhouses and conservatories were great, and they even developed a banana called the Cavendish banana that ended up getting exported around the whole world, okay? So people were bananas about that invention. But what I want to really talk about is this idea, the fountain, right? Now, there's this guy, the 6th Duke. He was just like, I don't know if he sounded like this, but he was just like, yo, Paxton, bruv. But that's how Dukes sound, isn't it? Yo, Paxton, I've got an idea. I want a record-breaking fountain. He's like, what? You mean like Guinness World Record? He goes, Guinness isn't invented yet, but we'll go with that. I want a record-breaking fountain. Now, I've heard of this Russian king, a Russian Tsar, in a place called Peterhof. He's got a fountain. There ain't nothing. It's only like 30-something meters. I want it bigger. I hear he's coming to visit, and I want a fountain that when he comes, he's like, dude, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Your engineers are really clever. So he went up to a guy called Joseph Paxton. He was like, yo, Paxton, build me a record-breaking fountain. So he gave him a design brief. Do you guys know what a design brief is? Okay, basically, if you don't know, it helps you focus your creativity and ideas, right? If anyone wants something built or created or designed, you start with a design brief. Here is a basic one. It's 1843. He wants a brand new fountain. Who is he going to make it for? The 6th Duke, the guy who owns the place, and Tsar Nicholas, because he's going to be the person who's going to see it, who you've got to amaze. Joseph Paxton's rubbing his chin thinking, what more do I need? He says you just have to get it bigger than 37 meters. So then the Tsar is like, I'm in awe. You guys are fantastic. What else was there? The Tsar's coming next year. You've got 7 or 8 months to build it. He's like, okay. How much do you have? I don't know what the budget was. They haven't managed to find a budget, but I'm pretty sure he didn't care. He just went, just build it. Spend whatever you want and build it. If you ever get a design brief that say just spend what you want, you're very lucky. That's a great thing. Most times it's like, you've got this. When you're like, can I have a bit more? No. Okay, but there's a thing in design, okay? You can either have something cheap, or you can have something quick, or you can have something of good quality. It's highly unlikely you get all three, all right? Something's always got to give, okay? But he took this brief, now he had to think about it. How do fountains work? Now, to give you a brief idea of that, I've got a quick demonstration that I think many of you may have seen before, okay? So, I think this should work. Oh, technology. Yeah. Let me see if this is coming up on the screen. What's so funny? Right, here we go. So, I want to bring this down here, and here I have some water. Now, I put 2 holes in it. I think you may have seen this. Have you seen this? When someone takes a bottle and they put 2 holes in it? Yeah. Okay, what happens to the hole at the bottom? Fountain. Fountain? He's just trying to preempt it. He's like, he's talking about, it's a fountain! Right, well, I'll show you. What happens is the water's going to push out of the 2 holes, but it's not going to push out in exactly the same way. So, I'm going to pull the lid off, and I'm going to put it down here. Can you see that? Yeah. Yes. Which one's pushing out further, the top or the bottom one? Bottom. The bottom, that's right, okay? So as you can see, the top one doesn't get pressed out as much. The bottom one is pressed out even more. Now, the only difference between the top and bottom one is the amount of water above it, okay? The water is being pulled down by gravity, and it's pushing down on the one below it, the one below it, and the one below it. The one at the bottom is like having lots of people stood on top of you. You feel a lot of pressure, don't you? That pressure pushes out on the sides and pushes the water out. The pressure up here isn't as much, because there isn't as much stuff on top of it. So what the message there is, the lower down you go in the water, the more pressure there is, okay? The more water you've got above, the more pressure there is. The less water, the less pressure there is. Right, I can just sit in there. Right, now why does that matter with the fountains? Because if he wants to build a fountain, he wants to create as much water as he can. Because this is a gravity-fed fountain, okay? Fountains now use pumps. They didn't have pumps back then. So they used the weight of water coming from a high place that was pushing down with pressure. And that pressure, they fed out the bottom. So, here are the features. The first feature is you need a source of water. Now, we've already seen he had a big lake, and he needed a source that was better than other sources. So he built a huge emperor lake. You also need a way to get that water to the fountain, a supply channel. He built a huge tube made of metal to get the water from the top of the hill down to the fountain. It's called the Emperor Main Pipe. This is the Emperor Lake, that's the Emperor Main Pipe in there, and there's a valve to stop it. Then at the bottom you need a spout for the water to come out. Now you know the main components, the main features you need to consider some key features, because this is what engineers need to do. First of all, he needs a good capacity and a good height. So you can imagine, if you haven't got much water, the fountain's just going to run out. So the Tsar's walking down, he's like, I've gone to see, sorry if my Russian accent's rubbish. I've gone to see your great fountain, Duke. And Duke's like, there it is! Then the water runs out. And they're like, yeah, that was rubbish. So he had to build a big lake to house enough water. Then he had to lift it to a sensible height, because the higher it is, the more pressure there is. And to show you that, I think I should do this. Here we have the tube, the Emperor Main Pipe. You can see how high that lake is. The higher it is, the more pressure you can get. Now, if you look at this, you can see that it's not actually the length of the pipe, it's how high it is, okay? So it doesn't matter how long the pipe is, this is half a mile long, it just matters how tall it is. Now, to show you that, here we've got a demonstration. Here is my fountain setup. This is Chatsworth. This is the Emperor Lake. This is its capacity, okay? How much water. This is the main tube. This tube Comes from here to here. Now, remember, the more water you've got, the more pressure it has at the bottom. So you need to choose your materials correctly. If I get it onto this other screen, here we go. What we're going to do is, we're going to set up this system to make a fountain come out of the bottom. And here, I have the spout. You all see that? Yeah. Here we go, right? So there's a spout at the bottom. It's got different nozzles. What we're going to do is, we're going to see how changing the height of the water source affects the size of the fountain, okay? So let's start with getting rid of this free advertising up there. Here we go. Right. So we're going to start by moving this microphone over there. So it's get a little bit wet. Do they tell you to bring your umbrellas in the front row, yeah? Hey! Right. So let's open this up and start the water coming out. So. Oh, that looks cool, doesn't it? Okay. So here we have a fountain, all right? Can you guys see the fountain down there? Yeah. Okay. Well, what's going to happen, maybe I can reach a bit further out. So I can hold it like that. There we go. Or maybe not. No. Also like that. Okay, there we go. So, let me maybe do it out of this one. There we go. There we go. That's a bit better. Now, I'm going to raise up the water source. So remember, the higher the water is, the more pressure it creates. Can you see the fountain getting higher? Yeah. Right. It's there. It's leaving the screen. It's leaving the screen. Oh, wait a minute. It's left the screen. Come on, Anna. Just bring us back here. Let's bring this back here. Let's bring it up there. Look. Let's raise it even higher. Let's go. Oh, it's getting higher. It's getting higher. It's getting higher. See, there is no pump here. This is purely from the force of gravity pulling it down here. Okay? Let's close that down. Hey! A gravity-fed fountain. Now, you could wonder, what would happen if we changed the size of the tube? Now, I can't do it in this demo because I don't have the time to, but if you change the tube and made it smaller, there would be less water that could make it through to the fountain, and therefore, you wouldn't get as much water pushed out. So, he had to make decisions, Joseph Paxton. What's the size of the pipe I need to get enough water to come out of this nozzle at the speed to beat 37 meters, okay? So, he kept looking at his designs. So, here are some things, features, they had to think about. Here, we had the capacity and the height. We don't want to run out, we need it high enough to have a nice fountain. We also need to think about the length, the diameter, and also how much pressure is in it. So there's the length. To get it from all the way to there, that's half a mile, 800 meters. He had to make that pipe. Okay? They used to make it out of lead, but we found out that lead is poisonous. If you've got water sitting in lead pipes, it's not so good for you. So iron pipes are more frequent, okay? Now, these pipes come all the way down to here. Remember, it's not how long the pipe is, so even though this pipe is really long, it's just how high it drops, the change in height, okay? Now, you find the right materials and you find the right valves. But there's another thing you need to consider. Because I let that water out of one nozzle. Nozzle is the hole at the top. There we go. Let's zoom in to show you that again. Right, so as you can see, there's 4 different nozzles. When we let the water out of this one, it's the widest nozzle. So I'm going to put it forward so you can see. Look, that's the one with the biggest hole at the top. And they get smaller as you move across, okay? So with the wide nozzle, how much does this pressure create? Hey! It's great, isn't it? That's awesome. Maybe not. Okay, what about if we change the nozzle for one that's slightly smaller? Oh, that's better, isn't it? Okay, now you might have to look down here, okay? Okay, what about if we use a smaller nozzle, okay? So now we've got 2 at the same time. Look, when I open 2, the water's split between the 2, okay? So 2 nozzles, more opening, the pressure is spread. Let's close that other one now and let's go to the up. Should we go to the smallest nozzle? Yeah! Okay, guys. Here we go. Small nozzle. Both at the same time. All right, I've got to put it on. Ready? Close that one and here we go. Right. So, if you change the nozzle and get the nozzle right and the size of the pipe right, you can create the biggest gravity-fed fountain the world has ever seen. Yeah. These are real things that Joseph Paxton had to consider when he was creating this gravity-fed, record-breaking fountain for the 6th gym. Okay? And as you can see here, that is it in all its glory, okay? You might just go down to Chatsworth and see this wonderful looking thing, but imagine the things that had to go into this. How much pressure you need to create to build the whole entire lake on the top of a hill to provide enough pressure caused by gravity, to have it big enough to have enough water that it doesn't run out before the end of the show. Also, to make sure you've got the right nozzle so you can squeeze out the highest water fountain you can. And once they've done that and chosen the materials, for example brass that doesn't wear out quickly, you get the fountain. Now here you've got the seahorse fountain. It's not fed by the same source of water, it's a bit lower. It's actually the water that comes out of the Cascade. So this fountain can't go as high because it's just fed by gravity, okay? It's also got more nozzles, and you saw what happens when you've got more nozzles. The water pressure is spread, okay? Right, summary points. Teachers, take note. Engineers design and make products to fulfill particular needs. All designers do that, okay? Design briefs and specifications provide the focus for innovation in projects. Understanding the properties of materials allows functioning solutions to be achieved. Learning about past and present trends can provide ideas to adopt or improve upon. For example, arches, domes, and aqueducts.
Yay!
Now it's your time. Okay. So hopefully everything I've just said, I'm going to summarize in this rap. So, as always, I need your help. You still with me? Yeah! Okay. Yeah, let me get the microphone for this bad boy. Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Yeah, the 6th Duke, he had a passion, and a head gardener, Joseph Paxton. He said, yo, Paxton, I've got a big test. Build me a fountain better than the rest. Now a big issue that he had back then, that all of the fountains were gravity. So powered by the height that the water, more height, more weight, more pressure at the end. So Paxton set his sights up the hill. In 6 months, a stream and a lake were on a half-mile pipe, 15 inches wide, carrying the water down the hill. Where it ended the fountain and flowed through a meant that the height of the jet was and when the emperor fountain was it became the highest fountain the world had seen. The Cascade got a whole lot of yo, we're getting down with the oh, from the moors to the artery, then to the down to the where it ends. Chatsworth got a whole lot of yo, we're getting down with the flow of ideas or energy. There's a fountain of fascinating things too. Yeah. It's good. So enjoying this. Are you learning something? Yeah. Good. So we're trying to combine learning with education, with curriculum, with Chatsworth, with geography, with engineering. And now we're going to get some science. Don't worry, I make it fun. I'm going to be telling you the stuff you're going to be learning or have learned already, but it's all good, alright? That was a perfect example of energy. Sound energy. We're going to be talking about the flow of energy at Chatsworth and how energy works. Now, does anyone know what is energy? Energy. I like that answer. Energy is energy. E equals E. Okay, it's a good way to start. E also equals MC. It also equals work done. Let's check it out. Basically, energy is the ability to do stuff. To do work, right? When you lift up your arm requires energy. When you breathe requires energy. Anytime you want to move anything, do anything, change the shape of anything, requires energy, okay? Now when you do some work, energy is transferred into it, okay? So you give up energy to do work, right? Even when you do work at school, you're like, yeah, but how am I using energy for this? You're actually doing work and changing the structure of your brain, the molecules, changing in your head, the breathing, your metabolism, all of this is work being done, okay? Using up energy. Now, there's two general ways you can view energy. Potential energy, which is basically stored and positional, and kinetic energy, which is things in motion. So my hand's moving like this. Kinetic or potential? Kinetic, because it's movement, okay? What about my legs like this? Kinetic, okay? What about when I lift my hand up higher? Is that kinetic or potential? Potential, that's right. Now, to get to know this a bit better, we're going to use a demonstration here of this. And we're going to talk about a particular type of potential energy called gravitational potential energy, okay? Now remember, energy can never be created or destroyed. You can only change it from one form to another, okay? That's how energy, it doesn't suddenly appear, it only came from another source of energy. So when you said energy equals energy, I was like, that's pretty cool actually, because that's exactly what the rule says. Energy comes from energy. Energy equals energy. It doesn't get more or less, it just changes, okay? So, gravitational potential, you'll learn about it in school, is MGH. 3 different things that if you multiply them together, tells you how much potential energy it has based on gravity. M is basically the mass, how much stuff you're made of, okay? You can see it here by looking at these cars on the, yeah, but actually, you know, can you see that?
Yeah.
It's really small, okay, let me zoom into it. They're having a great time. Yeah, all right. So these people having a great time on this roller coaster. They all have mass, okay? Now the other thing that you want is G. That's basically how much of a gravitational field there is, how much gravity is pulling stuff down, which is the same everywhere. So their mass isn't going to change, neither is the gravity. But this does, H. And you can see that the H is the height they are, and if you increase H, you increase potential energy. And if you increase the energy, you need to do work to make that happen, meaning you need to do work to pick things up. But if you decrease this, meaning go down the hill, you can see that the energy gets less. But wait a minute, didn't I just say it can't be destroyed or created? So where did it go? Does anyone know where that energy goes when it starts going down?
Yeah.
Any ideas?
Into the tracks.
Into the tracks? Kind of. Oh, it's all right, because that means you're going to learn something new. It changes into this, kinetic energy. When they go down the hill, look, they get faster, don't they? We all know that from roller coasters. And you can work out the energy of motion, okay, of movement. It's called kinetic energy. It's half times m times v. Now half is just a number, it doesn't change. M is the mass, it doesn't change, but look at the v. The velocity, the speed it's going, does change. And you notice the further it goes down, the faster it gets. And if that's increasing, so is this. So, it's going down, it's losing h, this is getting less, but it's gaining v. This is getting bigger. As the potential energy goes down, it changes into kinetic energy. Then it hits the bottom of the hill and goes up again and starts to slow down. Its velocity slows down, it's losing energy, but look, that's because the energy is going into raising the height. So there's a match between energy, okay? All energy has this match. But there's more going on than just that, because it's also giving off sound energy and also heat energy. So let's check this out. So like this guy outside playing with his basketball is using energy. And if I was to open that door quickly and you go flying, I would change some of that energy into him, okay? And the ball will go flying over there. But these are different types of energy that you'll find around you. Some of them can have more potential, some of them are more kinetic, some of them have a mix of the two. So we've talked about gravitational and motion energy, but look, you can also have elastic, magnetic, chemical and nuclear energy. These are all kind of potential. You can have mechanical, sound, electrical and radiant. That's kind of a mix between the two. Radiant energy is the energy from light. And then you've got thermal and motion. So thermal energy is the energy of molecules moving, okay? Basically heat. Look what happens when we transform energy. So you can have this handheld hairdryer. You can take a battery. Batteries change chemical energy into electrical energy. Do batteries contain electricity?
No.
Do they store electricity?
Yes.
No, they store chemical energy that can be released as electricity. Now this electricity can be run into a motor which transfers electrical to mechanical. And if you connect this to it, look, as it spins, this can push the air, it can do work on the air to speed up and increase its kinetic energy to do work. But this motor works in two directions. Because we can flip it around. Now, instead of this energy going into that to change electricity into movement, you can take the wind to move this, and what will happen is, when this moves, it will make electricity come out of the motor and go into the battery and get stored as chemical energy. So, this isn't now called a motor. Does anyone know what this is called now? A generator. Well done, and well done over there. It's a generator. So the very same motor you've got, you can flip it around and it can transform to become a generator. Why is this important? Because it's how we create electricity in our society. You see these lights that are on? They are all the result of electricity generated in this way. Now, you could turn this using air, you can turn this using water, you could use fire to heat up water into steam, and then it turns that, and this is how most of it's created. When we use coal to make energy, it heats up water into steam, which goes past the turbine. When we use nuclear power, it heats up water, which turns into steam and goes past the turbine. So this is mostly how we create our power. And I've got another demo. We said that you can take a motor and spin it, and if you spin it, you can create electricity. Here, I have a bulb connected up to this. We're going to use the energy from this to turn this and to create electricity, okay? Now to do that, let me see if we've got the demo in place, good. We're going to bring this down over here. All right, good. Well, I'll put it over here. Here we go. So the question is this going to work?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's not. Okay, so we've got our water energy. We've already seen that. We've got pressure, which pushes the water out the bottom. If we turn that on correctly, at very low pressure, let's see what happens. Is the light come on? No, it's moving too slow, isn't it? What about if we speed this up a bit? Let's pour water out. Yeah. What's happening? There's light, right? There we go, okay? You can see that the light bulb is on. So we can generate electricity to power whatever we want. And not only that, we can go a bit further than that. We can actually work out how much electricity is going through it, its current, and how much push of electricity it's sending by measuring it with these meters. And now if you know the current and you know the voltage, you can work something out. Now, I don't know if you've learned this yet. Do you know what power is?
Yeah.
What's it measured in?
Kilowatt.
What? No, what's it measured in?
Volt.
Watts.
Joule.
Watts. That's right, power is measured in watts. Energy is measured in joules, okay? If you want to know an equation, have you heard of the equation power equals current times the voltage?
Yeah.
Who's heard of it? P equals IV. Like, hands high if you've heard of it. And hands up if you was like, I wasn't paying attention in that class. Hey, that's all right, because now you have it, all right? Power equals current times voltage. And we can work out the power on this, okay? I need your math brains on this one, okay? So, we're going to run this, and we're going to see how much we get coming through it. So, I'm going to put this one on here. You saw that one's the voltage, and this one is the amps. There we go. Hopefully this works. So, we're going to have that spinning. You've already seen it makes the light go on. Hopefully, we can see that as well. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Just about. Okay, let's see what happens if I've plugged it all in right. Hopefully this will work. So the light's on. Can you see the numbers?
Yeah.
29 roughly, so let's call it 30, and 1.8. We can call that 2. So this is the volts, and this is the current in milliamps, okay? So we can divide it by 1,000 in a bit, but so what we can do is take 30 times it by 2. I know it's a really hard sum to put together, like guys. Hey? 30 times 2. Come on now. 60. 60! She right!
60.
Yeah, of course, that was easy, isn't it? 30 times 2 is 60. Now, you could say that's 60 watts, but you need to know that this is not in actual full watts, full amps. This is milliamps. So you've got to divide it by 1,000. So it will be 60 milliwatts, okay? Which isn't that much, but the point is you can produce electricity by making a motor move which is connected to, or a generator which is connected to electricity, okay? So, at Chatsworth, they use this. So I'm just going to quickly check this flow of energy before we wrap things up. So, energy from the sun. What type of energy do you think that's called? Okay, hands up. What do you reckon? What do you reckon? Solar? Is solar energy? Radiant energy, that's right. It's radiated as light. It's not heat because heat can't travel through space. It needs stuff to travel through, okay? It goes into the water, heats the water up, the water absorbs it and gets more thermal energy and evaporates. It gets higher. What type of energy is it when it's got higher due to the height? Potential or kinetic? That's right, it's increased potential energy. Now it comes back down as rain drops to the top of the hills and gravity pulls it downhill again. Now, at Chatsworth, they put a water wheel in front of that water and they used it to directly power a corn mill. In this place, Payne's Mill, you can see how they've directed the water this way. It goes through this wheel, which is directly connected to their machines. So, the rotational energy makes this spin. And they can use that to grind corn. But they can also use that in a different way. Since the invention of electricity and generators, we can produce electricity, which puts lights to the house. But there is another way that Chatsworth gets power. It's still from the sun, but they've also got solar panels at their farm shop. That takes energy from the sun, radiant, changes it straight into electrical energy, and that can then go to the national grid or straight to the house. So, Chatsworth has got flow. To summarise, it does got a whole lot of flow, right? Energy can be kinetic or potential. Energy can be transferred between different forms. The kinetic energy of water can be used to do work. Generators convert energy into electrical energy, and the amount of hydropower can be found by using the current and the voltage. Teachers, tick, tick, tick. You guys.
Tick, tick, tick.
Yeah! So to wrap things up for the very last time, it's time for me to do my very last rhyme. Are you guys ready? Yeah. Okie dokie. Let's go! Now let's talk about the Chatsworth vital for nature, for life and society. And we can get it in a number of ways. Chemicals, movement, and the solar energy gets water, and gravitational energy makes it. Energy within the motion is known as turbines are a great way to collect it. They rotate from the force of the transfer the energy to a generator. Movement and clearly turns it into electrical energy. This process is and it comes with a bundle of a renewable source of energy. Powered by the Chatsworth water Cascade. Got a whole lot of flow. We're getting down with the from the moors to the artery, then down to the Derbyshire where it ends. Cascade. Got a whole lot of flow. We're getting down with the from the flow of ideas with the energy. There's a fountain of fascinating things to know. Thank you so much, everyone. Excellent work. Don't forget, give us feedback on everything that you like, things you didn't like.